the 32nd. Oh, never mind.
There we go. All right. We're here for another episode of Blitz. I've had a couple days to recover since the Packers decided to not show up for half of football, but it is what it is. I'm Isaac with Fun Football Podcast and co-host of Blitz. I've got my buddy and co-host Med from Shots from the Sideline and co-host of Blitz. And obviously, I think you're a Bears fan. Everybody can see it. How you doing, dude?
I like to put it out there. It's one of those things where, I'm excited that we're 2-2 right now. It's been a while since we've been 500. So, living the good life right now.
Awesome, man. Hey, good win, by the way. We do a pick 'em, John. And I should have listened to him. He said, go Minnesota. And at the last second, I flipped to Green Bay. And I picked the Rams because I don't believe in the Bears offensive line. We'll get into that in a second. But we've got John from, tell everybody all your accolades. Detroit Sports Podcast I've been listening to for a little bit now. You guys put on an awesome show. Tell everybody where they can find you and what you do, man.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to chopping it up. The NFC North now is becoming a division that is being talked about all across football. So 10 years ago, I started Detroit Sports Podcast, co-founder with my cousin. Started a podcast really early on when not a lot of people were doing it on a regular basis, and we had fun with it. And as it grew and as we had an opportunity to get bigger guests and to do it more often, the opportunity came to partner with Sports Illustrated, and they were looking for local talent to cover the teams as they expanded their operation. They tabbed me. And for the last 6 years, I've covered the Detroit Lions day in, day out, doing the multimedia journalism and podcast videos, covering it across the board. And we put in the grind, as everybody knows. The Lions have been in the toilet for decades. Yes. And finally, they found their guy. They found their man in Dan Campbell. And literally within a couple seasons, he's gotten them to the point where they look like a respectable football team. So it's a great opportunity now, a big, big season for the Lions as finally in 2024, we're talking about a team that has Super Bowl aspirations like the Packers. And it's just, one of those things where you realize that winning is really fun. It's not only fun on the field, it's fun. It's so much more fun when you get to cover a winning football team. I'm not sure the Bears will get that feeling anytime soon, but we'll figure it out here in Detroit as we puff our chest. We are the 1-year defending NFC North champions, and we're very proud of that.
And I mean, honestly, Jared Goff has it's been like Baker Mayfield, is that a career resurgence. And we're talking about a guy that led a team to a Super Bowl, but looked like the difference in, there's not a lot of Mahomes out there, but he definitely held the team back with the Rams. This guy looks like a different quarterback. I mean, last night going 18 of 18. I need this stat. I couldn't find it today. I had a really busy day teaching. When was the last time a guy threw 100% completions on at least 15 passes? Like, that's pretty special, dude.
Wow. Guess what? Never have never done. I think
I had a feeling it had never been done.
Yeah. So I think that when you look at it from the perspective of why the Lions are successful, Brad Holmes was willing to take a chance on a guy that he had familiarity with the Rams, and a blockbuster trade happened when Matthew Stafford walked into the owner's office and said, "Get me out of here." And the trade that happened with the Rams really has set the Lions up for success. And look, Jared Goff, I think that really a lot of teams can take a stock of what the Lions did. They didn't say, "Hey, you can't do this. You're not mobile. You're not this. You can't do this throw." What they basically did was Ben Johnson spent an offseason looking at all his film from the Rams and said, "Okay, this is what you do well. This is what we can craft. This is what you need to be able to have success." And they built an offense for him, built an offensive line, got him a prototypical star tight end, got him weapons, built an offensive line so that he can execute what he does. And I just think that more teams should really take stock of that, because look, yeah, Jared Goff has limitations. If you pressure him like you would any traditional pocket passer, he's going to struggle a little bit. But when you give him time, you saw what he was able to do against the Seattle Seahawks. He was able to pick them apart, and he had a perfect day, and he made some great throws, great reads. And he's one of those kind of guys that if he makes a mistake, he's going to go on to the next play and be able to rebound. And I think that the Lions are benefiting from the veteran savvy that the savviness that he's got out there. He's a true leader. Everybody rallies around him. And look, now they're at the point now they're calling plays where Amon-Ra St. Brown is throwing him the football. His first ever career. He said since he was 6 years old, he's never been in the end zone receiving the football. So they're having fun. And look, like a lot of teams, the offense for the Lions was a little bit stagnant the first couple of weeks, but they exploded on a primetime stage. And it was good to see, man. Jared Goff deserves a lot of credit. And I know many people don't put him in tier 1, but where the Lions came from, it's good to have at least a tier 2 quarterback because in the history of the Lions, they've had some really awful quarterbacks.
Especially in the 90s when they had Barry and they had Herman Moore and they were just loaded on offense, but they didn't have the quarterback play. I don't think Troy Aikman is like one of the 10 greatest quarterbacks of all time, but he didn't lower that team in the 90s. He was able to produce when they needed to, and they were just stacked. And you're right, man. I mean, the way Goff's playing right now, he might be the best quarterback you guys have had, other than, Stafford probably. But really quick, before we keep going on the show, sorry, I meant to do this earlier. Where can people find you? You talked about the show, Twitter. Where's your everything?
Yes,
like, where are you guys?
If you're a fan of the Lions and you're not local, you can. I'm sure a lot of people have seen my stuff around. This is retweeted, and we've been around for a decade. But you can find me on Twitter at Detroit Podcast. That's the hub of where you can find all the podcasts. We just dropped another live episode we recorded just a few hours ago, breaking down the game. We do the podcast there, and then you can also find. You can go to Google as well. You can type in Detroit Lions on SI. And you can find the website. It's a dedicated Detroit Lions Sports Illustrated site that has daily content, videos. I was just there today talking to Dan Campbell as he did his media session before the bye week. Yeah, so it's great.
That's so cool. Like, you're living my dream. Man, that is awesome. I'm speaking. Ned, I'm sure is excited too.
Yeah.
But dude, that's so cool, man.
In reality, John, basically what you got now is the dream job. And it took a while for Detroit to actually get to that point too, because like he was talking about, I personally watched the 1990s Lions, and they weren't really loaded on offense. Right.
Well, Barry Moore. That's true. That's true. Moore, not much of a line, but yeah, that's true.
Barry made an average offensive line look good. And, 10 years in, 10 times he was an All-Pro. To me, he was the greatest quarterback. I know that's like Bears blasphemy right there, but it was one of 2 players that was in the old-fashioned black and blue division that I really enjoyed watching play. That was on another team, the other being Sterling Sharp. But quick question for you. With a city, I saw your post the other day with Grit City Whiskey, by the way.
Yeah, you like it?
It's a pretty cool bottle. I was like sitting there, I was like, man, that is a really cool bottle and everything. How's it taste, by the way?
Yeah, I did a review. It's really good. It, I think I poured the first glass neat, and because the Lions did not play on Sunday, man, it's a benefit. You guys, yes, it is a dream job, but also you guys get to sit at home and watch Red Zone. I got the opportunity to sit and watch football from 1 p.m. until 11. And I poured a couple glasses over ice, and it's very good over ice as well. I recommend it. I think that for a limited edition bottle, it's a little pricey at $50, but
it sounds pretty good. I think my wife would like it too, man.
Yeah, it's mid-range, price in terms of where you can get. It's enjoyable. It does the job, and I enjoyed a couple glasses on Sunday watching. Man, I thought the Ravens Bills game was just like elite level football, and then the Ravens it was just elite. And I enjoyed watching football. Of course, watch the Bears and watch them not score a whole heck of a lot of points. But hey, take a victory and any opportunity that
you got a Lions fan that wants you on, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're meeting a lot of Lions guys, and it's fun talking. We were trying to get a Vikings person on to do the whole black and blue thing, but I love talking our division because, man, it's starting to become what the AFC North has been. It really is. Like, I feel like right now, what's the best division in the NFC right now, if we're being honest, guys? It might be the NFC. The NFC South has been surprisingly good, but you still have Carolina.
I would say the NFC West right now.
The NFC West, maybe. The 49ers are pretty banged up. Arizona's an up-and-comer. but they're still 1-3. 49ers are, I mean, without McCaffrey, I don't know if they're a contender. And that was my worry before the season was I picked the Lions. I'm not just saying this, you can ask Med. I picked the Lions to go to the Super Bowl because I thought the 49ers wouldn't stay healthy, and then all their drama in the offseason.
Yeah.
And look where they're at. And you guys should have beat them last year.
No doubt. But you look at, I do agree with a lot of the chat that the NFC North is the best division in the NFC. I think that you look at it top to bottom, a lot of youth, a lot of talent across the board. Though prior to the season, I asked a defensive coach for the Lions. I said, man, you look at across the board, each team has stud wide receivers all over the place. And, the Lions, they took the effort to revamp their defense. And so, the discussion before the season was, how the heck are they going to stop Jaden Reed? How are they going to stop, DJ Moore? How are they going to stop Roma Dunze? That Justin Jefferson, my goodness, you saw the performance that now he's had to start the year. 4 games, 4 touchdowns, and he's grittying all over the place. I know because he's on my fantasy team. So I'm panicking,
Lucky.
Because from what you guys saw on Monday Night Football, if the Lions breathe on one of these receivers, they're throwing a flag. So look, the good thing about the division is that it's going to be competitive with the Lions, having the recent run of success. I do think that, the Bears, Vikings, Packers are all extra motivated to get back to where they've been in the past. So, and look, we clearly saw what the Packers were able to do with Jordan Love. Now that injury was a little bit of a setback, but look, you guys got talent across the board. That defense, you guys improved your defense, which was really what was going to be needed. And for the Bears, I think this year is just a learning year for your young quarterback. But I do got to ask you, Matt, because I think that's a topic everybody's talking about. You got buyer's remorse. Should the Bears have taken Jaden Daniels? Because he's looking like a stud already. And everybody's like, wait a minute. What were you guys looking at? Jaden Daniels looks like a stud already. And Caleb is looking like he's taking his sweet ass time here to kind of make some of these throws and missing some guys that are open.
So to be honest, Isaac could tell you this too, as I was all up on Jaden Daniels.
He was, yeah.
And it was mostly because what you saw at what he did in LSU. Now, a lot of people, when I was sitting there critiquing Caleb Williams and the fact that he tends to play some hero ball, which we're starting to see a little bit of, and now, really and truthfully, we're winning our games from our defense. And I was one of those that said, look, if you're not going to probably get Jaden Daniels, you could probably trade back a little bit, maybe grab him a little bit later, potentially get Marvin Harrison over.
She can vouch too.
Dunze. So, but yeah, no, I was always big on Jaden Daniels. It's just that, you kind of want to just look at his psyche. And Jaden Daniels played in the SEC, which is the toughest division or conference in college football right now. It's not even close. I mean, Big Ten is getting there, but you have 9 teams that are in top 25 in the SEC right now. So he played top-notch talent, had Madden-like numbers, and you passed on him for a guy that had pretty much the same season the year before. But when I saw Caleb, and I hope he works out for us, when I saw Caleb crawl into the stands after a Washington loss and cry in his mom's lap, I was like, I don't know if this could be the guy for us, because Detroit's a tough city. Chicago's a tough city. Green Bay is a soft city. You have all these other things that you have to really take into account. So, but yeah, no, that's the way I feel. I think we should have actually went with Jaden. And
thanks for your comment, bud. I'm just being nice to you. I heard you.
Yeah, the interesting talk with Chicago is that
I love this too. Tough question.
Yeah, you're getting the early talk that maybe Shane Waldron might not be the guy that's going to take Caleb Williams to the next level, because in football you can have the raw talent, you can have players at certain spots, but if you don't develop them, if you don't, you're already hearing about meetings about having to go in and tell, hey, Shane, call some plays that can actually work. Can you call some more aggressive plays? Can you please stop with the check down nonsense? We can't just run the ball and throw it for 3 yards. We got to kind of look like an offense that kind of can be productive. So look, I get it. I do think that there's talent there with Caleb Williams. I do see what
Oh, I see glimpses, yeah.
And protect him a little bit. Like the
I was gonna
offensive
say
line's
that's
been
the issue.
like, I
Yeah.
don't think Jaden Daniels would look as good as he looks with the Bears offensive line
right. That
or
offensive
the
line
head
is
coach and
terrible.
play calling. Because I don't believe in
Exactly.
Eberflus, man. I just don't.
So
Exactly. And that's been the secret to Lions' success is the puzzle fits. You have coaches that have played in the game. You have a scheme that fits the players, and you can see the difference when it works. And you can start to see other teams when it doesn't. You're like, man, you guys are putting Caleb Williams in a tough spot with that brutal offensive line.
Exactly.
and
I
I
like what
mean,
Lions basement banner said.
Yeah.
Yep, not a leader when you go crying after the first game for your teammates. Have to be a leader first, show emotion, but as a leader, and then Millie Goats, who's awesome.
I mean,
Okay,
I like
I'll get to that inside joke in a minute. He's a big 49ers fan. Sorry, Matt, go ahead.
So as far as that's concerned, I mean, yeah, we know it's the offensive line, and right now, as good of a job that the GM, as far as Ryan Poles, is actually doing, a lot of flack that he's going for right now is the fact that he has not invested much into that offensive line. I was not a huge huge fan of the pickup of the right tackle. I'm trying to think of his name right off the top of my head, but it was a long day today, cleaning up trees. But as far as that goes, he hasn't really. His drafts have actually hit pretty well with Stevenson. And, when he first came on, he got rid of all the contracts to help us basically supercharge a rebuild later on down the road. He got rid of Hakeem Nicks. He got rid of Quinn. He got rid of a lot of Khalil Mack. I mean, even though he had a resurgent next year, his production was starting to decline, and so as the injuries were piling up. We have not had elite quarterback since Sid Luckman, which is really bad to say. And
Great defenses, but yeah,
great defenses. But I mean, when Rex Grossman was our starting quarterback, a lot of people joke about the fact that Peyton Manning won that MVP. I said no, Rex Grossman won that MVP. He shut down an offense really well. But as far as like what the Bears are going through and everything, it's in my ideas, it's not this year that I'm really looking forward to. It's next year. And with Jaden Daniels, of course, blowing up, which I knew he would, he's just that great. I think it's going to be next year that you see the Bears actually take that next step, kind of like what y'all did, where y'all 3 years ago weren't really winning many games. Then the year after y'all, made some noise. Next year you took the step. I think the Bears are going to be doing something similar. A lot can be said for the Vikings and the fact that they're 4-0, and Sam Darnold looks like Joe Montana back there right now. You look at the defense that is with the Packers. They definitely have improved a lot faster than most people would have thought, switching from a 3-4 Dom Capers defense to a 4-3. And all these teams are improving drastically. I think it's going to be next year where you actually see all four teams really start to.
I got a question for you, Matt, but we got some comments really quick. Chicago's Bear line is like relaxed hair in the rain. It's pointless. I'm sorry, I just had to. And then she said Mac was good as well. Janae did. And then in fairness, the Bears have a borderline elite D, and they do.
We do.
When you are averaging the league worst yards per play through 3 weeks, but you've been in all 3 games, it's obviously your defense. And really, my question is for you is, do you think, I've got 2 really quick Bears ones. Do you think, I'll start with the first one. Do you trust Poles to fix this offensive line? Because he's done a lot of other things. Do you think Poles will be able to in the next year? Because I feel like it needs a lot of work.
Oh, no, it definitely needs a lot of work. I mean, he invested. One of the big problems we had last year is we had a decent offensive line, but we had people scoring on us left and right. So he kept Jalen Johnson. He brought a Montez Sweat who elevated that defense to something that was very similar when Khalil Mack came in from the Raiders. And he fixed that. He has put playmakers around Caleb. Now, granted, DeAndre Swift, until this past game, had a 2.8 yards per carry average, which is something you cannot have as a running back. And this past game, he played well. I mean, it was against not the greatest team, but he was able to actually blow up for the first time since he was actually a Detroit Lion. And, because he didn't do crap when he was in Philly.
It's still good. The Colts, they didn't do anything against the Colts the week before, so it's still progress. I mean, I expected you guys to roll over the Colts without DeForest Buckner. So it's still progress. It's, they're starting to move along.
Yeah. But no, he right now, every time that he takes the snap, he's running for his life. It's the same thing as what Justin Fields had. And it's, until they actually fix that, then in my opinion, the games are won in the trenches. Everyone knows that. That's why Detroit got Aiden Hutchinson. That's why they probably need to get another pass rusher on the other side. I think that would actually help y'all out a lot more. But they worked on their secondary by drafting 2 studs in the secondary in this past draft.
Carry-on Arnold, man, that was a sweet one. But they also traded, John, who did y'all trade for in the offseason? Was it Jamal Dean?
No. Carlton Davis, this defensive
Carlton
back.
Davis. I was close. I was without looking it up, I was like, I know it's a Tampa corner. Yeah. But no, man, I think you're spot on. But what's funny is the Lions, where they've been beating people up, you nailed it. They've been beating people up on the offensive line. And the one thing that hasn't been said, when they went and got David Montgomery, everybody was like, why? But it's worked out fabulously because you have a 2-headed monster running back, and everybody thinks the NFL isn't about running. I'm sorry, if you watch the first 4 weeks, the teams that can run the ball, it's like the NBA. If you have a center, you have a leg up at everybody else, like Joel Embiid or really Jokic. It's an advantage because not a lot of teams, for some reason, have gotten away from it, and yet it's still really important. In the NFL, you still have to be able to run the ball. This is why the Packers have been doing really well, and I think one of the reasons why they struggled in that first half is because we were playing catch-up the whole time against Minnesota, and we weren't able to lean on a running game, and we were leaning on an injured Jordan Love. We'll get into the Packers in a minute. But that's one of the strengths of the Lions, man. They have 2 guys that scare you. They do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what the Lions have done is, and that's why they made the trade for Carlton Davis, is they noticed, man, we played Carlton Davis, and he was able to kind of do some things against our guys. That's the same reason why Dan Campbell was like, man, I had to pay attention to David Montgomery because he kept pounding the rock against us. And he said that every time that they would prepare for the Bears, the film on David Montgomery would just stick out, and you could just see the runs. And look, David Montgomery embodies what the kind of players that the Lions like. They like guys that kind of have been overlooked, that kind of have been not given the attention that they deserve. And a guy like David Montgomery has been told that you're not a true number 1. You're not going to be successful. You're not going to be this. You're not going to be that. And so he's taken that, and you see his runs. They're all angry. They're all passionate. And you just see a guy that is all business in terms of on the field. And he's just been a gem in regards to what he's been able to do for the Lions. Yeah, and absolutely they paired him with Jahmyr Gibbs, a home run threat. So I like what they got going on. And many people are talking about this duo, especially now coming off of a primetime game. Everybody saw what Montgomery and Gibbs were able to do. And it's a nice duo. But to me, in terms of my overall philosophy, and you just saw it too in the Colts game, what benefit the Lions have, and the reason why they're successful is they got a quarterback that has experience. They're not throwing Hendon Hooker out there. They're going to let Hendon Hooker probably develop for 3-4 years before even ever has a legitimate chance to see the field. And I just think that's the way to go. I just think the Bears
Packers have done it. That's what we do.
Done it.
They sit for 3 years.
I think you protect a player in regards to, I know there's no experience better than being out there, but you look at some of the quarterbacks that just get spit out, like a Zach Wilson, Baker Mayfield, quarterbacks that have talent, Darnold, that have that if they just would have been under the tutelage of somebody that could play. I mean, there's talk now already that people are like, well, wait a minute. Flacco looks like he's better suited to help the Colts win than Richardson. And that's not good that's not a good sign, because look what happened. Jordan Love sat and he learned from Aaron Rodgers. And now look, he comes in and it's a seamless transition. Everybody's like, how do they keep doing it? Well, because they've kind of have followed a simple formula. Favre was an all-world talent. He mentored Rodgers. Rodgers, all-world talent. He mentors Jordan Love. So this is the formula, I think, which gives teams, better opportunities when they draft these young quarterbacks. I think Tom Brady said it directly. He's like, these quarterbacks don't know what the heck they're doing. They're young and they don't know how to take a snap under center and read the defense and read through the progressions and understand everything that goes on. And it just takes time. So to me, I can respect Caleb for going through it. And yeah, I think he'll come out he'll come out the other side very much stronger for having gone through this experience, but it's rough. It's a rough learning curve. What do you like about Caleb Williams? Because I like his arm, I like his mobility, I like his athleticism. But again, the one thing that a lot of young quarterbacks have to deal with is when the play's not there, you can't just throw it in tight windows when you're not supposed to.
And that's one of the things that I talked about after the Houston game is sometimes it just looked like they just killed the poor guy because he would get up, you see him getting beat up. And, as far as his playmaking ability, I think that is the one thing that we really do like with him. The fact that he's accurate with his throws. Whenever Justin Fields would do the progression of his reads is actually spot on. He does great with that. He actually can go through a 4-man read with no issues, as opposed to Justin Fields, who was rumored to actually have a 2. Like, he'd basically look at his number 1 option, look at his second option. If he didn't see anything, he'd bolt. And I mean, I was a big Justin Fields fan also. I mean, I just want anyone to really succeed in our system. But as far as what you were discussing and everything, it's, one of the things I did not like that my team did not do this past offseason, they did not bring in a veteran quarterback, someone like a Nick Foles or an Andy Dalton or someone like that, you look at what Andy Dalton is doing in Carolina right now. Bryce Young got pulled out. They sat him to the bench and said, okay, hey, young man, watch and learn. And I think that really and truthfully, they should have did the same thing with Caleb Williams. The thing is in today's NFL, a lot of coaches have that instant pressure from their GMs and their owners to play the player right then and there. Anthony Richardson should not be playing right now.
No,
that's.
I agree. Actually,
I think he is.
He looks pretty bad.
He was a project player when he was drafted. They should have kept him a project, kept him on the sidelines. He had less, just barely over 50% throwing percentage, completion percentage down in Florida. And, you're putting them in a league where, in college, these guys are used to having their physical talents, being the best player on the field. And when they're in the NFL, they're just another guy at this point. And, it's just – I think that they should have brought in a veteran quarterback, sat him down, because unfortunately right now our veteran quarterback is Tyler Baggett, who's been in the league every bit of 2 years. And it's just unfortunate because I would like to see Caleb. Eberflus is not a – I watched Hard Knocks, and I was seeing this is a defensive guy telling the quarterback how to do his progressions, how to do his stance, his cadence, and everything like that. If you're going to groom a quarterback, bring someone that was at least on the offensive side of the ball to do it.
Oh, maybe like a Lincoln Riley, who's a wizard, who it seems like the marriage with Dan Quinn is a match made in heaven. And you look at it, you're like, oh my God. Well, I had so much respect for Dan Quinn. Once I knew where he was going to land, you're like, boom, he's going to be successful.
Exactly.
As long as he continues to grow and evolve the things that he struggled at in his previous location that got him dismissed. But I look at it like, man, Washington, that they're poised to come back and be a threat in a couple years, maybe even now.
Could they win the NFC East this year? I mean, it's not unheard of. They're 3-1.
Right.
And Dallas is, I John, I didn't tell you this, John, I live near Dallas. I'm like 30 minutes away, and I'm not going to lie, man. I'm worried the Cowboys aren't going to make I'm not a Cowboys fan, but I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs. I didn't have them making the playoffs before this season. I had them at 9-8. They can't stop a nosebleed. Their defensive line is one of the worst in the league. They lost their linebackers. They really are missing Stephon Gilmore. That's the underrated miss that the Vikings went out and got, and I was kind of hoping the Packers would do. The guy, I know he's 34, and everyone's like, oh, 34. Watch how the Vikings are playing defense. It's a lot of it is that. You have to have the right players with the right defensive coordinator to make the scheme actually work. And I've been arguing the Packers, they went and overhauled a lot of players because we didn't have the talent.
Right.
The Vikings going out and getting Gilmore, stealing him away from Dallas, who should have paid him and didn't.
Right.
The Commanders, man, I could see them actually winning the NFC East. I don't know if it'll really happen this year, but I had them at 9-8 because I believed in Jane Daniels, and they poached a lot of talent from Dallas.
Right. Real fast, I like the Millie Goats podcast front running for Brock Purdy. If you give any quarterback George Kittle and Debo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, run TMC when he's healthy with a healthy groin and some legs. Come on. Look, Brock Purdy is good, but he's a perfect fit for what they got going on. But
Yeah.
don't tell me that not a lot of other, like Caleb Williams would look pretty good there. Maybe even take them to a Super Bowl win over,
I like this comment too.
over KC.
Ooh, that'd be something.
With that lineup that he's got there. So we'll see. But, I'm curious with what's going on with the Packers. How big of a setback was that? Because, look, it looked like look, you always look at a returning player, in Jordan Love, and you like the comeback, you like the moxie, especially with that injury. I thought the like everybody else, smiling a little bit, hoping that the Packers season was over when the quarterback went down. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna sit there and say, "Oh, I was disappointed."
Man used to wish for this. I know he did. He was like, "Can we just hurt Aaron Rodgers, please?"
Right.
And the Bears usually were the team to do it.
Completely different.
So, how much of a gut punch was that loss to the Vikings?
Okay, so my thoughts were that Jordan Love shouldn't have played, and it really, I think he should have sat another week. If you watch what's sad is I didn't actually get to watch the last two games. I went to like a local Chili's and with the wife, and they had other games on when I got there, and people were watching them. So I missed most of the Packer games and had to read all about it like I do every week and watch highlights. I got to watch this whole game. I did my first live show ever at a bar on my other show. This is Blitz. And we had a lot of fun, but I'm not going to lie, that was really difficult to watch. Like, Love to me shouldn't have played. I know he had 4 touchdowns, but it felt a little Dak Prescott-ish in that postseason game where it was stat padding. We almost did make the comeback, but I really never felt like there was a part of me that wanted to believe we had a chance, but he was making some terrible throws, man. He made some great ones because the dude has serious arm talent. Even on a gimp leg, he can make all the throws. What I want to see is consistency, and this screamed nothing of it. I think it was a bad spot to put him back in, rushed clearly against Minnesota's D, even in Lambeau. It's hard to keep a player from playing, but he didn't look 100% to me. He wasn't moving. I've seen him when he's healthy. I feel like eyeball test, it looked different, and he hit it once, and it looked like he was in some pain. I would have preferred to not see him play. I only wanted him out there if he was 100%. I'm not saying Malik Willis is better. Millie had that lovely comment. Quarterback controversy. Green Bay 2-0 versus 0-2. Yeah, we played Philly and Minnesota on those 2 losses, and Indy and Tennessee in the 2 wins. That's, schedule makes a lot. Yeah, you're a funny guy. We need to have you back on, dude. It was a gut punch, dude. But it was also promising, and this is LaFleur, that we made a comeback at halftime, that we rallied. I appreciate that, and we almost made the comeback. It shows you how good of a coach LaFleur is, buying 2 wins with Malik Willis and making our team basically a quarterback factory. But putting the guy in positions to succeed was great. Now I want to see if he can do that, and I like Med's question for everybody. I think Malik Willis should have played last week. I know Jordan Love's going to play moving forward. What I want to see is if they can protect him, because that offensive line, the thing that scared me the most, this was our offensive line. Here was their defensive line, and they just were all over us all day. They lived in our backfield. It was like watching Caleb Williams with the Bears. It was awful. Like, nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants. That's just, you don't want to see your quarterback getting hit over and over and over, especially with a hurt MCL. So it was disappointing to see the defense play the way it did, but we were down 2 corners. It'd be like if the Lions were down Terry and Arnold and take out Carlton Davis. Your defense just isn't going to look the same. Our best 2 corners were out, and I'm not a big Stokes guy, and they've got weapons, and they made our backup corners look like backups. So
I'm curious to get
the other thing, though.
Yeah, real fast. I'm curious to get then your opinion, because you just saw the Vikings. Are the Vikings better than the Lions?
Ooh. Y'all hadn't shown a lot of consistency. I don't know, man. Like, your offense hadn't looked the same. I still would lean Detroit. But if this is the real Sam Darnold, if he can do this all season long, this is going to be an interesting race, man, for the NFC North. Maybe Green Bay gets a hat in the ring. I still think we're more of like a 9 or 10 win team, but I think the winner of the division is going to be like 11 or 12 wins, maybe 13, maybe. I wouldn't have gone that high earlier in the season, but I'm starting to believe in Minnesota. I really am.
Sam Darnold right now is the only quarterback that has double-digit touchdowns with 11. And This is also the bet. I know some people will sit there and say that San Francisco had a better receiving core when he was playing there, but he only played one game, and it was at the very end of the season with other backups against the Rams. You're not going to have a Justin Jefferson on every team. You're not going to have Addison as a number 2. And whenever TJ Hawkinson comes back, dear Lord, the way that I look at it is, even though Sam Darnold is getting the spotlight right now, the real glitz should go to that defense. That defense has just been playing phenomenal. If Brian Flores does not get a head coaching job next year, it'll be criminal. He should still be the head coach at Miami, but, they want to actually have an offense. But, Minnesota is just, I don't know if I would say talent-wise, because y'all's offense is just Detroit's offense is just nasty. You got a great freaking offensive line with Swell, and actually that's where I would actually give it a little bit more of an edge as far as the offense go. Defensive wise, I'd have to go to Minnesota. And
see, I look at it like with Detroit is Aiden Hutchinson can take his game to a very elite level, and he's looking at potentially, like, I think he had 15 pressures. And so now with the emergence of Levi Onwuzurike and Aleem McNeil and the addition of DJ Reader, underrated probably across the league, but people here in the division understand DJ Reader, if he stays healthy, man, it was unfortunate that the Lions took the gamble on Marcus Davenport and it didn't pay off because he's already hurt.
Yeah.
So he's out for the year. But I do think that, when you look at mano a mano, I think the Lions can scheme like, okay, you can take away Justin Jefferson by doing certain things, pressuring the quarterback, obviously. But the good thing is that with Minnesota is they got another talent. Jordan Addison had another game, and then the run game as well. So this is one of those things where in these kind of games, it's going to really boil down to, like you said, in the trenches, who's going to push more, who's going to get those key plays. And with the Lions, and part of their success, because their defense struggled tremendously against Seattle, but at the key moment, does Darnold, I think that to me, and whenever you're looking at close teams, defense, offense, there's going to be skills that complement and areas of weakness. I just think that Goff is better than Darnold. And I think that in those moments, I think that Darnold will blink first. And that will be something that will pay off eventually. The investment that the Lions made in Goff will eventually pay off, because I do think that Darnold is benefiting from working with O'Connell and the talent that he's got. But at the same token, you always kind of still have that still a little distrust that can he, take it to the next level in the most pressure moment. So when he comes to Detroit, I can't wait to see it. I do think that these division games are going to be great. And
like this week, it was at least entertaining. I just wish we, consistently had a defense. We've created turnovers, but can we consistently get stops? I still don't know if the defense is there yet, but I'd like to see the defense fully healthy first,
Yes.
Okay,
the Lions, though, I think have made strides.
Lions, Vikings right now, a little bit ahead of the pack, but yeah, we still
got to see. What about the Bears,
how-
though? The Bears defense might be, frankly, the best defense in the division. As good as Minnesota's defense has been, man, that's tough. I don't know which defense I would take. And the Lions, on a good day, they're starting to get there. It really comes, but the problem is they have a lot of youth in that secondary, and that's going to take time to develop. And that's what I expected with the Packers having the youngest team in the NFL again. And I know the Cowboys are playing a lot of rookies, but we still have the youngest roster. I expected ups and downs. Now I just want to see if we can get our quarterback healthy and see what we've got. That's what I'm hoping for.
Man, what do you like about the Bears defense right now? How have they started the year?
I love it. I mean, you got to think about they outscored the Tennessee Titans in the first game. I mean, it's typical Bears football in some ways.
Great.
It's just that we're just now starting to actually throw the ball. We ain't running it 3 runs in the cloud of dust. But I mean, we arguably, as far as our division go, would you, like how you just said, with the offense and defense and everything like that, I mean, you could look at our cornerbacks. They're Stevenson and Jalen Johnson. They're probably the best 2 cornerbacks in our division. You look at middle linebacker. Actually, I'm waiting to see your rookie from last year. I'm trying to think of his name.
Campbell.
Campbell.
No, sorry.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see what he does, because he reminded me a lot of Brian Urlacher when he was coming out. But as far as, like, if you were to say from front to back, and it's just going to take time because you get, like I said, you got two rookie corners. Arnold is a great pickup, but a lot of people forget about Enos Rockshar. And he was
He's
phenomenal at Mizzou. I mean, he was killing it. I think and you actually got the best tandem of safeties. Sorry, McKinney. I love McKinney. I think he's the best safety. But
man, 4 picks in 4 games.
Joseph
That's ridiculous. Woo-hoo. 4 picks in his first 4 games. Sorry, go ahead, Pat.
You're good. He got excited. But I mean, your safeties are good. I was a big fan of Malcolm Rodriguez, when he was coming up. I loved him in Hard Knocks. Hutchinson is just a different animal. And like you said, your other guys that are coming up right now, they're really solid. It was just, to me, whenever you look at the strengths and weaknesses, Detroit just needed to get their defense to where their offense is. Right. And, y'all are getting there. And for us, it's the exact opposite. We need our offense to at least get close to the defense. But no, I love our defense, man.
Yeah, and Detroit, it's interesting too because there's a lot of youth. It's still a very young football team, and that's the wild part is that here in Detroit, every week it's, well, let's go out and get Trey Hendrickson. Let's go out and get Hassan Reddick. Let's go out and get Max Crosby. We got big eyes for the Stars because most people in Detroit didn't really, take too kindly to Marcus Davenport coming just because of his injury history. Look, when you get to know him, he's a solid individual and a really good football player. Problem is he just couldn't stay healthy. But this situation, his torn triceps was not because he's injury prone. Literally, against Arizona, he gets whacked in the elbow, and it's a significant. It happens. It's football. So it's just really, sometimes some guys get unfortunate with back-to-back injuries, and it's super tough. But it does highlight, that Brad Holmes has done a great job in the draft, but just his free agency. If he would hit a little bit better in free agency, a couple more guys that he took a chance on. But that's what you have to do. You have to be a little more economical because you are starting to dole out contracts to high levels. So this is where in the future too, the Lions are going to be very sensitive with their next upcoming drafts because Aiden's going to need to get paid. Aleem McNeil's going to need to get paid. J-Mo is going to need to get paid. So there are going to be some departures here. So that's why I think, I respect the all-in mentality. The fan base now in Detroit is like, let's just push. Let's, do what the Rams did and let's start offing the draft picks and let's just do it now. And I'm okay with that philosophy because when you have a team, you still have to understand the history. So I've always been saying one before I die, just one. And the Lions have been preaching, well, we want to be having sustained success. And I'm like, your goal is to be the Chiefs? I mean, that is elite level talent that you got with Patrick Mahomes. That's just hard to do. You know what I mean? So the sustained success model, you kind of need an all-world number 1 or number 2 in the NFL quarterback. So to me, I'm like, I don't care about draft picks. Sell them all and get 5 guys right now. And let's go all in right now. If you take the chance, I think you kind of build that respect. I could if they went all in and got 5 guys and they took a chance this year, I would be okay if next year they took a step back and then the year after and then 2 or 3 more drafts because you kind of know that you've been able to rebuild. If you've done it once, you can do it again. So that's why, Brad Holmes recently came out and spoke before the Monday night game and he was asked, like, are you going to go all in? He's like, we always got to look to the future. We can't do that. We always don't want to be looking like that, but it doesn't seem like he might make a move, but I don't think the Lions are going to go all in. I just think they love their draft and develop model. So it makes us, yeah, exactly. Devontae Adams.
He's available.
The Lions. Devontae Adams is not coming to the Lions. I promise.
I don't think he's going to Green Bay. I think he's going back to the Jets. Sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
Yeah, he has to go to the Jets.
So because you were talking about draft picks and everything, I decided to go ahead and take the clock, push it back a few years. Y'all trade away probably y'all's best franchise quarterback you ever had in Matthew Stafford for some picks. You get Jared Goff, who basically got jettisoned to Detroit. And in all honesty, a lot of people felt like that's where quarterbacks go to die. Kind of like with Tennessee with receivers. So when this happened and you see what the at that moment, how did it feel then when y'all traded away Stafford? And, you see how things are right now as Isaac eats his fried pickles. And how does it feel now that, because this team really has embraced what Detroit is. I've been up to Detroit. I went to a Tigers game. My mother-in-law is a huge Tigers fan.
Nice.
And great ballpark, by the way. But what was it like for y'all?
Yeah.
What was it like for you as a Detroit fan?
Yeah, no,
The range of emotions.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I was already gone from Stafford 6 years ago. I was mad when they paid him the $25 million. I was screaming. That was one of the biggest debates that I would have online was don't pay Stafford. I don't care if the contract in 10 years is the 32nd best contract. I don't care. I don't think he's going to win you anything. That was my bold stand. So I was ready to move on. And he did the job for the Lions. He walked in and he quit. So that was great. I knew after years 6 or 7, whoever we're going to assign the blame to. I assigned it a little bit more to Stafford. A lot of people assign it more to the organization. That's here nor there. We can debate that for hours. I had a feeling that marriage was going to not be great. So you go out and you get Jared Goff, and I'm like, okay. And I did publicly and I have stated that I felt like he was going to be the bridge quarterback. Like, okay, just get us through 2 years, weather the storm, and get your guy. I didn't think the guy was going to be Hendon Hooker. I would have liked, trade up a little bit and make some moves and get one of the established guys that you think can play now and be taught, because I would have, looking at it differently, said, okay, Goff now is making $53 million a year. Is he worth it? In the realm of what I think $53 million is worth? No, but in the realm of what quarterbacks do is, my stance is, my opinion is, I think that he's a quarterback that can get you to a Super Bowl, but when you're down 10 points in the fourth quarter, I'd rather be more comfortable with Mahomes, who just, for whatever reason, whenever he's down double digits, just comes back and does his thing. I'm always of the opinion, like, go out and get the best quarterback, go out and get the game changer, go out and get the Jaden Daniels, go out and get somebody that is all world, but they're so hard to find that the next best thing is a guy like Jared Goff, who's a little bit more safe and steady. But here's the thing, and this is the big issue, is that we need to find a way to transplant those old slow legs and get some speedy, like Hendon Hooker legs on this guy, because if you just give Jared Goff mobility, he's a 2-3 time Super Bowl champion. Unfortunately, because I'm a guy that's more prone to follow defenses. It's really kind of not that difficult. You collapse the pocket, you take away the middle, Goff's going to panic a little bit. He might give you a turnover or two. And to me, I like seeing the wins, but if you ask me, do I think Goff can lead this football team? I think that they want him to be a part of it, but I don't think that they expect him to lead it. And I just think that, look, and that's what I love about my Twitter page, is that right when I'm watching the Baltimore game, I can ask, guys, I just watched Baltimore look like world beaters. The Lions don't look like they can compete with what I just saw there. And so I asked, and luckily the Lions fans were honest. We are a bunch of homers, but they were honest. I said, Lions playing their best and Ravens playing their best, who wins? And all the comments were like, oh no, Baltimore, you don't want that smoke. And I said the same thing. Well, why? Because they're scared of the death of Lamar Jackson. And they realize that Derrick Henry is a freight train that could hurt Terry and Arnold if he's trying to tackle him. So to me, like, so here in Detroit is similar to the Bears, is that the quarterback play, Jared Goff is benefiting from all the previous quarterbacks not being great. So he looks like filet mignon. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I compare Jared Goff to like Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes, like the best of the best. I don't compare Jared Goff to Matthew Stafford. You know what I mean? So that's how I look at it. And to me, I've always just been starry-eyed. I want the Peyton Manning. I want the Tom Brady. Just no doubt about it. Unequivocally, he's the best quarterback in the league. I want the Mahomes. And so I was hoping Brad Holmes would have found that and like maybe bring him in here and just take over and dominate. But look, I like the team building approach. It works. But the Lions, look, you know, if we just want to go back to the 49ers game, it wasn't Jared Goff's fault, but that offense consistently struggled in the second half last year, and they didn't solve that riddle against the 49ers. And it wasn't Jared Goff's fault. It was a lot of Josh Reynolds. It was Gibbs' turnover, a lot of factors. But
I think it was Gardner Johnson just sitting there
Yeah.
waving to the crowd at the very end.
But
too.
You guys realize too that if Mahomes was on the Lions, maybe there's some of that it factor magic that just he's not going to let the Lions collapse. And that's what I've always wanted. Just somebody that's just going to be like, I don't give a shit what's happening. We're just going to win this game and put it on my back. So I've always wanted a Tom Brady or a Patrick Mahomes. But I'm okay. That's what I've said this year is my season prediction for the Lions is Super Bowl loss. Get to the Super Bowl and lose.
Get that.
I hope I'm proven wrong, but it's an evolution, and I think one more draft class might bring the Lions ever so close to that elusive goal. But my God, do you know the all-world effort it's going to take to knock off Patrick Mahomes? The guy gets better with the more injuries that he gets. It's sick. It's crazy to watch, right? It makes it.
I don't think the Chiefs are going to win. They're not going to three-peat, though. It hasn't happened, and look at all the injuries, and that's kind of like the effect of getting there so many times, the added games, all the extra time that they're playing.
I mean, look at the Bills in the 90s. Exactly.
They couldn't finish. I mean, what the Bulls did in the 90s, even in basketball, was unprecedented because injuries accrue in any sport, but the NFL especially, all that extra time you're playing the playoffs. And to climb that mountaintop again and again, I could be wrong, but it hasn't happened since the 60s, pre-Super Bowl era with the Packers. And as good as Mahomes is, he'll win more rings, but they're down Rashee Rice, they're down Pacheco. They have like the zombie Kelsey as their best target, and he's not the same as he was. I love Mahomes. I love that D. They find ways to win games. But I do think that whoever comes out of the NFC is going to either dethrone them, unless Baltimore can figure this out. They're the one team, because I don't buy Houston yet. I think it's pretty much down to Baltimore, because I don't see Pittsburgh having the offensive weapons to actually win a Super Bowl. I love that D. Maybe I can be proven wrong, but I like the way Justin Fields has been playing, but I don't know. I don't see it with Pittsburgh. So.
Yeah, Baltimore doesn't have the wide receiving depth that you would really like to kind of get in a shootout. So they're going to want to pound the rock and control it. So I'll ask you two. You guys are seeing it. I'm close to it, so I obviously have my opinions. Do you think the Lions can win a Super Bowl with Jared Goff this year? Can they win it? Do they need to add one more piece here or there, or do you see similarly? Because Goff takes a lot of heat for that 3-point performance. It wasn't all his fault that the Rams didn't show out.
Good for us, Isaac.
Belichick was a wizard and just exposed every flaw that the Rams had top to bottom. But I do think that if you give Goff talent, you got enough. You got, like I said, a nice tight end, 2 good receivers. You got a defense that's still a little bit young. I do think you probably need one more impact guy on offense, one more on defense, and you're right there. But I just, like I said, to me, I just have a hard time seeing it because I just think there's better quarterbacks out there,
That's my problem with Jared Goff. It's like, is his ceiling winning a Super Bowl? Like, I'm going to be honest, man. If Baker keeps playing the way he's playing, the problem I have with Baker Mayfield is he's like only that great like when he's rolling. Yes. Like if things go wrong, they go really wrong for him. Jared Goff, it's similar. If you get pressure, he turns into a pumpkin. He just still does. He did last year. And he showed me that he could handle it a little bit better than he used to. But that Thanksgiving Packer game, we won because we got pressure on Goff. And I think that is the recipe. If you can get pressure on him, destroy this offense. Jameson Williams has taken a step. I don't know if you guys need another weapon. I feel like you've got St. Brown, you got Jameson Williams, you got Sam Laporta, you got David Montgomery, you got Jahmyr Gibbs. Really, it comes down. I hate that it's this way, but the Packers just lost that game because the way Jordan Love played and their kicking game and the fact that we had backup cornerbacks in. But the way Love played was one of the big reasons we lost that game. And if we could get a kicker, anytime this century would be nice. Bring back Cosby at this point. But I'm asking the same question. Can Jared Goff win a Super Bowl? I would lean yes with this roster. But I don't know. It requires a superhuman effort in playoff games when they have a full week just to prepare for you. It's all the marbles. And unfortunately, you need guys to make big plays. Purdy, as good as he is, and Millie, if he's still watching, is going to get mad at me, but one of the reasons 49ers lost that game was Purdy didn't make plays when they needed to put the Chiefs on ice. He didn't use his legs. And it's not that it all came down to him. They had injuries. It's more than one guy, but they needed him to make as many plays as Mahomes or close, and he couldn't match. And that was the difference. Matt, what you think?
I think the way I look at it is Goff will probably get you to the Super Bowl, but will the defense actually step up to keep the points off the board? Right now, y'all are ranked 30th in yards allowed in the pass. And I mean, that is attributed to your young secondary. In time, that will get better. But also at the same time, this isn't the same Goff that we saw when he was with the Rams getting ate up by the Patriots defense and Bill Belichick. I think that he has matured a little bit. Yeah, there was a little bit of an issue with, Goff towards the end of the season last year in the NFC Championship game. But at the same time, I think that was more collective than anything, because when you're up at that much at that point, I mean, y'all were putting on that ass.
Yeah.
And I mean, y'all were just whooping them. They were behind the tool shed, and something happened in the second quarter or the second half, sorry. And it just happened. And sometimes I know that when I played, that my team would sometimes get overconfident because we're like, we're beating the shit out of these guys. Yeah, we got this. And then they'll come out, it's a different team. And it was the mentality. And I think the main reason why they did not win that game is because they weren't used to that moment. And the reason why I say that is because you had a whole team on the other side that's already been there. They were there the year before. And then there were, some of the players from when Shanahan went there the first time. But, that's all it is. It's experience. And I think once you actually get a team full of experience, that was just something that could satiate the hunger only so long. Eventually, you're going to go back and get the full course meal.
Yeah, it's interesting. You look at it, and a lot of people will look to Dan Campbell and not kicking the field goals, not taking points when they were there. Just looking at when you have multiple touchdown lead, you should have probably taken the points instead of putting it in the offense's hands again. But hey, you never know. We don't know the comfortableness that they had with the kicker in terms of his length and all of that. They were aggressive on offense. They continue to be aggressive. So it's going to be interesting to see, because to me, the X factor for the Lions this year is Dan Campbell. I think that he definitely can motivate a lot of people. The players will run through walls for him. He runs a great operation, gives the players rest when they need it, will kick their ass when they need it. And I just think that, look, it's no easy feat to come off of a season in which you're in the NFC Championship game and then come back and start the next year 3-1. That's coaching. That's a lot of talent. That's something where the consistency of having Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson and a bunch of coaches that played in the league. I think that's the X factor for the Lions that, for your audience, that's the X factor for me, for why I have hope that the Lions have a chance to get there and at least compete in the Super Bowl. I'm hoping to go down to New Orleans, because that would be a full circle moment for your audience to understand. The Lions, Dan Campbell coached in New Orleans, comes from the tree, and understood that, hey, that's where he cut his teeth, was in New Orleans. He could actually go back there and win a Super Bowl after coaching with Sean Payton. It would be full circle for him, the defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn, the linebacker, Alex Anzalone. So it has that kind of magical moment, but we'll see. I hope to see it. It would be great. I'll come on here and I'll come on with all the beads that I collect from New Orleans and share all the tales. But I like being in this division. I like that, it's the black and blue division. And it's great too, because there's great storylines with all the teams, with the Packers, Bears, and Vikings. It's going to be a division I think is going to be formidable for a lot of years. So
I agree, man.
I'm excited to see it. So we'll see what happens. And I can't wait to see how it shakes out when the Lions play the Bears and the Lions play the Packers. It'll be fun, because I'll be in your DMs talking shit when we roll.
Hey, that's fine.
3-4 touchdowns on you.
Hey, what if we beat y'all again this year? I'm gonna have a field day on Thanksgiving. Oh man! And I mean,
we should have beaten twice last year.
I'm just curious where my team's going. It's been such a weird season. I'm still believing in them. I just want to see our quarterback get healthy. That's where I'm at. And for the Bears, I just think, can you protect your quarterback, because you don't want him getting hurt?
Are we going to still have a quarterback by the end of the year? It's probably
Jesus, that Houston game, man, that was a blitz, dude. And it was sad. It was like Madden. It's like they had 7 guys coming. You got 5 blockers. Caleb's going to have to evade 2 guys, or he's going to get wrecked. It just
Hey,
doesn't work. But I want to be nice to John. We told him about an hour.
Well,
We
good
had a really
question,
good
John.
question in the comments.
Yeah.
I want to quickly hit it.
I knew that you were going that way with it. That's why I said what I said earlier. And I do have one more question for you after this, John.
I have a quick one too, if we have time. But if we don't, it's okay. Who's the best offensive and defensive player in the NFC North so far this season? All three of you.
Yeah, simple. Best offensive is Justin Jefferson. Sick, man. That guy's sick. Got me doing the gritty because I got on my fantasy team. So I'm sending it to all the guys I'm whooping because he's in the end zone every time. Best defensive player, Aiden Hutchinson.
So, John, I'm going to have to actually ask you that whenever you do the gritty, could you please tag me in it and put it on Twitter?
Oh, God. No.
I got to see it. I got to see the gritty.
I got to
see the gritty.
I want to see you do the gritty.
I got to see the gritty.
No, it's bad. No, you're going to have to get no, it's bad. It's for family only at this moment. But we'll see. If we win the Super Bowl, I'll put it out here now. Win the Super Bowl, remind me. I have it in my phone. I have the gritty. It's not as good as Justin Jefferson, but I was happy he scored that touchdown when he did it. I'm like, oh, I'm going to do it too. And I got it on tape. But I sent it to my nephew because they were laughing because that was a 10th pick in a 10-team league. And I took Justin Jefferson 10, and so far so good. He's been doing me very well. So you don't want to see me doing the gritty. I mean, I'm a better talker than I am a dancer. It looks pretty stupid, but I think you'll laugh. You'll have a good time with it. So if they win the Super Bowl, I will post the gritty.
There you go.
Okay, mine really fast. My best offensive player would be Jefferson as well. Yeah, it might be bias. I like Hutchinson. Jalen Johnson would be a high candidate for the Bears. The Vikings, I mean, they've got a lot of guys playing good, but I think it's either between Jalen Johnson or Xavier McKinney, honestly. I think that's fair. I mean, one of those two. Jalen Johnson's he's just ridiculous. Hutchinson as well. I think any of those three are really good candidates. It's funny that the Vikings D is playing so great, and outside of Harrison Smith, nobody stands out. I don't know why, because Turner missed a game, and they've got a lot of guys I know of, but it's weird. As good as that D is collectively, it's kind of like it's a no-name defense, sort of. But I don't know. It's weird. Matt, what's your picks?
Well, I'm looking at it right now, and I know that Justin Jefferson is just killing it. But I'm actually going to say I'm looking at your stats with David Montgomery, and I know he just blew it up. But I mean, I'll go with that. I'll go with David Montgomery as far as I go, but I will say Xavier McKinney is by far been killing it on defense. I know that 4 interceptions in so far 4 games. Jalen Johnson has been a really great shutdown corner. I think he has 2, but Xavier McKinney, when he first came in, was someone that I knew was going to raise up that defense.
Peter's a little biased. He said Jalen Johnson, but I did mention him. Janae says McKinney. Okay, Med, why don't you hit him with your question? Then I got one more.
So is Ben Johnson going to be the offensive coordinator for the Lions next year?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think he's waiting for the prime opportunity, and I think it's going to open up. I think the opportunity clearly, it's going to be real. It's going to be fun because I'm going to Dallas. I'm going to be there. I'm leaving.
Oh, nice.
I'm flying in. I'm going to check out the Dallas game. I've never been in Texas before, so I'll hit you up for the recommendations on where to eat and where to hang out. But look, if the Lions light up the Cowboys offensively, I could see if the Cowboys fall flat on their ass. I know they're cash strapped. You got a quarterback. You have the foundation of an offensive line. So I could see Ben Johnson going to Dallas, but you never know if
Jacksonville.
Jerry Jones. Yeah, if
Jacksonville, I see
Jacksonville
that one.
has a quarterback. That's something that people are talking about too.
Do they have a quarterback? That's actually a good question. That wasn't going to be my question, but do the Jacksonville Jaguars have a quarterback? Because when he sails a pass on Monday night, 10 yards over the guy's head to the safety, and he can't hit, man, he doesn't look like a quarterback right now.
I think what Ben Johnson's waiting for is he wants to finish the deal in Detroit. If they win the Super Bowl, he's out. But he's also can pick and choose. He understood. He said it publicly. He's like, the average coach that gets hired new is going to a bad team, and that means you get 3 years and then you're out. You don't want that first opportunity to
Buffalo.
Buffalo would be amazing if they move on.
That would be sick. I don't think McDermott's going to get fired, man. If he makes the playoffs again, I mean, I don't think that owner has a mandate that like Super Bowl or bust. That would be that was my one other team, but that Baltimore game scares me that there's a recipe to beat that team up. So I don't know, man.
Yeah, so he's waiting for prime opportunity. He's very wise, and look, he's getting all world training from Dan Campbell, who's a wizard offensive mind too. So it's I think it's clearly 100% if they win the Super Bowl, but if they don't, I still think 75% he's gone.
I like how you actually put a spot too. I really do appreciate that.
I like that. Okay, here's my quick one. Fast. Who you said the Lions make the Super Bowl? Is the Chiefs? Are the Chiefs going to be the team to beat them, or do you have somebody else?
No, I did a column on Sports Illustrated. The team that I need desperately to be there because it literally answers the debate that Lions fans have had because the Lions have clearly put out draft and develop. They went to target a little bit less expensive free agents because they were paying Goff $53 million, paying Penei Sewell, paying Amon-Ra St. Brown. The team that I want to see, and I'm going to travel out again to Texas, I want to see the Lions and the Texans because the Texans have the young quarterback and they complemented him with a bunch of high-priced free agents. And that's diametrically opposed to what the Lions did. And I want to see who wins it, draft and develop or free agent spending, because a lot of people in Detroit have bought into what Brad Holmes said. And I agree. I think it's great. You draft and develop is pretty smart. You see what the Lions did. But at the same token, you got to find that one or two free agent that's going to complement your team. And you got to go outside the organization. The Lions are a little bit picky with their locker room standards. And they have like 5-6 standards that they will not bend on in terms of character, grit, mentality, hardworking, contract, all that stuff. And so it's like, man, just go out there and get some talent. And I don't care about all that nonsense. Go out there, see quarterback, smash quarterback, pay him $10 million a year. You know what I mean? The Vikings defender, Daniil Hunter, guys that can play, guys that can do some things. Look at what the Texans did. Now, of course, coming off of this week, their offense has not been as great and they don't look the same as last year, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, to me, power rank it, I'd love to see the Texans, then the Chiefs, then the Ravens. Speaking
of power rankings, really quick, because I teased it. This will be the last thing, unless Med's got one last question, but I want to be really good, close to that hour. What is your top 5 teams right now based on the first 4 weeks? Not where they'll be right now, John.
Yeah, it's a good question. Clearly the Chiefs playing well. Minnesota. I like what I see from San Francisco. They're always out there.
Okay. I have them up on my top 5.
Yeah, Baltimore as well, and then 5 Detroit.
Okay, I like it. Med, what's your top 5?
I am going with Minnesota first because they've, this past game, they actually had a little bit more grit and finishing off that game. Chiefs have been very fortunate, and some people will say the refs have been helping them out. After that, I would actually go with Detroit because, the game last night, a lot of people were really high up on the Seahawks. I wasn't potentially, but then I saw what y'all did to that defense, and the Seahawks had a good defense. After that, I would hit probably Baltimore and then Tampa Bay. I really like what Tampa Bay is doing right now. And, that besides Baker, and I know he's getting a lot of shine right now, that defense is pretty solid as well.
They're actually my top 5. I've got the Chiefs because they're back-to-back champs. They're 4-0. They've earned it. Minnesota's 2. I do wonder if that second half was, I don't know. I think they just let their foot off the gas, but they still look pretty legitimate with Darnold. They really do. And not only do they have weapons on offense, they've got a defense to match. I've got the Bucs at 3 because they beat Detroit. So I've got them at 3. And I don't know if that would happen again, but Baker really won that game. And I feel like if they played in the playoffs, I really wonder what would happen. And I think there's a solid chance that we see a rematch in the divisional. I actually think it's possible. I think they're going to win. The Bucs are going to win the NFC South. I don't buy the Saints, and I don't really buy the Falcons. I got the Lions at 4, right behind the Bucs. They're right there. I think they could easily take the Vikings in a playoff game, but I'm starting to wonder how good the Vikings are. And then I've got Baltimore at 5. My question with them is, can they close games, which is a weird question to ask when you have Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. But, I mean, they did just throttle Buffalo. So, I don't know. They're a weird team. I question the coaching a little bit, actually. So, nice. Med, do you have anything else?
No, I'm good.
Thank you, John, man. This was awesome. Really quick, before everybody leaves, can you remind everybody where to find you, what you have coming up? And thank you for coming on, man. Seriously.
Yes, I look forward to checking in again, maybe halfway through the year or after some of these great battles that take place.
Yep.
Definitely thank you for the
Yes, sir.
invite. Love talking football. Find me on Twitter at Detroit Podcast. Feel free, hit me up. Love debating football. That's where all the content can be found, the hub of the podcast and all the stuff with Sports Illustrated. But if you go to Google, just type in Detroit Lions on SI and you can find the content, or visit si.com/NFL/Lions. It's a Detroit Lions team channel on Sports Illustrated, where daily coverage, all the insights, everything that you'd want if you're not connected to the Lions. If you want some information, definitely check it out. We have videos, highlights, podcasts covering the Detroit Lions on the inside. I'm a credentialed media member, and I'm out there. And I was at Ford Field enjoying that Monday Night Football contest as and to me too, which is always fun too, is that I wanted the Lions to win clearly, but I was also enjoying the show that Kenneth Walker was putting on, because I'm a Michigan State grad and I was loving life. I'm like, this is just what he did. Because I was in the
party.
I was in the press box when Kenneth Walker single-handedly beat Aiden Hutchinson and dominated and scored 5 touchdowns. And it was just a beautiful day, great memories. So I'm seeing the team that I support, the Lions, and cover, and then I'm seeing Kenneth Walker just do his thing on my fantasy team. So it was win, win, win. And it was a great, great week. The Lions are 3-1. And it's great to be able to have the opportunity to do podcasts and to cover it for Sports Illustrated. They're a great company. Whatever anybody says, they've treated me with nothing but the utmost respect. They let me create content in my own way with my own team, and they just have been nothing but supportive. And the partnership has taken our project to a great level. The Detroit Sports Podcast is the hub, and Sports Illustrated is just a beautiful partner.
Awesome, man. Very, very cool, man. Med, where can people find you? Shots when you go in? What you got coming up?
Can they find me?
Yeah.
So we'll be you can find me here every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. You can also find me on Thursdays, 7:15 p.m. before the Thursday night game. We usually preview that, a game on the Sunday and a game on Monday. This coming week, we will be talking about, of course, Alabama and the Georgia game, and the ramifications. We'll be talking about what is Carson Beck really the number 1 overall quarterback prospect in next year's draft? And we will have a 6-pack that will be college infused. We'll be talking, of course, upcoming games, reviewing past games. And this has been really fun. And as far as the future one goes, I do, John, if we're doing this again, I like it. I do have a Vikings person coming.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we'll actually have 4 people talking shit about their teams.
That's nice. And then
it would have been more fun this week for the Vikings person just to gloat after that game, but whatever.
Real fast, the chat. I love seeing Entertainment Man podcast, Mac and Cheese podcast, Sons of the Star podcast, Entertainment Man podcast. I love it. You have a collection of podcasters. I started clearly as a podcast, and it just goes to show you, if you keep grinding, if your dreams are to work in the media. The one thing that bugged the heck out of me was I was told in 2017 and 18 that podcasts are not media. And I said, yes, they are. And I'm going to show you. And then I bust my way into the door to partner. I came like this, just starting off doing this, but just all as a podcast, not in the video. Nowadays, all the young people are doing the video. So I'm doing that as well too nowadays. But understand that if you have a big dream about doing a podcast, keep grinding, keep at it. It's the best form of communication. That's why I go on as many as I do. I love just doing this. I've never met you guys before, but we can have a free-flowing football conversation because it's just the greatest, and we're not interrupted by any commercials, and we're able to do it. So if you're out there and you're in the chat, you are not that far away from meeting your dreams. If you just record, have fun with it, and get great guests like John Macaroon and Med and Izac, you'll be good.
Thanks, man. You can find me on Friday. Just me and Bill this week. We're going to be doing our picks. I'm very excited. We had a pretty solid week. That's on Friday. This week, it's just moving forward. It's going to be at 8 p.m. Eastern. And then you can obviously find me on Blitz next Tuesday. I'm not sure yet. We've got a couple of guests lined up, but we're going to have a fun show. Hopefully after a Packers and Bears win. John, I think we're gonna have to bring you on after either the Packers play the Lions or maybe the Bears play the Lions or the Vikings, because we've got a couple of fun Vikings people we've got on tap. But yeah, man, it's been 1 year. I just started a year ago, and this has been a fun way to end the year.
For me too.
Yeah,
great. Keep it going, guys. And to end, at least no matter what happens to me, I know my coach can whip your coach's ass.
That's very true. Dan Campbell is he's a beast.
That's fair. I do question. It's food for thought. I do wonder if Dan Campbell, as good as he is, he's going to get you close. I wonder if he's going to learn from that conference championship game last year. That's going to be interesting.
He will.
I think so too, because that was, to me, like when I'm thinking of Jared Goff, Carter Johnson, or Dan Campbell, I really put more on Dan Campbell because the points there could have made the difference in that game. But like the Packer game, we missed field goals because our kicker sucks. But
you got to learn. You got to learn from your mistakes, and you have to get there. Dan Campbell was also an experience in that setting as a coach. Now he's learned from it, and he's still only in his 4th year as he had an interim year, but this is only his 4th year running a team. And this is I mean, some coaches never get this opportunity to have 2 winning seasons potentially in a row. So
yeah, man.
I think he'll learn from it. He's got the right mentality. He's got the right people in place. And most importantly, I think he's got the underrated X's and O's offensive foundation. And Sean Payton, you could have learned from a lot worse guys than Sean Payton. He came from the Bill Parcells tree, and Dan Campbell understood that, hey, you got to have a little Parcells, little Payton, but you also got to have a little bit of that nice guy mentality too. So he's the right mix, and I see it coming. It's just, let's see if they got the right quarterback. Let's see.
I agree. Well, hey, man, thank you for hopping on. Med,
let's start a tradition right now. When we end the show, we basically do our team's chant. John can restore the roar. You can say what you'll say because I'm not going to say it, and I'll say bear down.
Med, will you say my Packer chant?
I will not.
Come on. Come on, man. Give it to me.
Go Pack Go. One part where in Dumb and Dumber where he's like, you want to hear the most annoying sound?
Go Pack Go, baby.
Here in Detroit's #1Pride.
Bear down, baby.
All right. We're going to close on that. Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you again soon.